Now, the United Nations human rights chief is accusing Ethiopian security forces of opening fire on protesters who were singing anti-government songs. Ravina Shamdazani did not specify the source of the information, but says the UN's regional office in Addis Ababa has collected information from several sources, including local media, trusted civil society sources, and official statements. The incident came just 2 weeks after Ethiopia's ruling coalition, the Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democratic Front, announced its plans to roll out reforms. In its reaction, Ethiopian government spokesperson Negera Lencho said demands by the public should be raised peacefully. However, he called on security forces to exercise restraint and avoid actions that could lead to death and injury. Well, now, for more on the political situation in Ethiopia, Tsedale Lemma, editor-in-chief and founder of Addis Standard Magazine, joins me live via Skype from just outside Frankfurt in Germany. Ms. Lemma, welcome to Africa 54.
Thanks for having me, Vincent.
Not long ago, we talked about the hope that the Ethiopian government would kind of change its way of doing things. What do you make of this latest accusation by the UN?
First of all, I don't think it's only accusation because the statement is almost the same as the news story that we made on Sunday morning. It confirms that innocent civilians have been killed by security forces at a religious festival in Woldia in northern Ethiopia. So it's beyond accusation. Second of all, I think this is the way the Ethiopian security is programmed to function. So every time there is a small gathering, whether it's big or small, the response is very violent from the armed force of the country's security apparatus. Yeah. So it's in line with the way they have been handling public gatherings so far.
But government spokesperson says, well, protesters, please conduct yourselves in a way that will not lead to death or injuries. What does he mean by this?
Well, it's. I think I would like the spokesperson to revisit his statement in this particular incident, because from every source that we have talked to, this was purely a religious gathering. This was one of the holiest events that the Ethiopian Orthodox Church followers do observe every year, once in a year, Epiphany. So the young people in town, after the ceremonies were coming to an end, the young people in town were singing and just having fun. And suddenly one of, at some point the songs have turned into an anti-government songs, which is very popular nowadays, related to the depleting popularity of the government in power. So this is what sets off the alarm for the security people. So the issue to discuss here is whether or not such fully armed security people should be patrolling religious events in a peaceful situation that preceded it.
So from all your sources, from all you know, these young people did not engage in any violent activity. They did not attack anybody. They were peacefully singing, chanting anti-government slogans, you say?
There were further interviews as well that were filed by other media organizations today by talking to the people, the families of the victims. One of the victims, for example, Gebra Meskel, has been killed, according to his brother, in a place where there has not been any disturbance at all. His brother spoke to the media like that. And they have been singing. Yes, so far, we have verified that there were songs of denouncing the government, but they were far from being violent. The security forces were just standing by, alarmed of any public gathering. And I think that is the panic that sets off the killing.
Very quickly, when the UN speaks, of course, it's hoping that the government will stop using force against civilians, but also that somebody will be held accountable. What's your take on that?
Well, the UN says what the UN always says. This has been the trend for the last 27 years, ever since this government came to power. We have not seen a single government official, neither a security security officer, held accountable for so many of the killings that have happened in the past. The UN always says that. It's not only the UN, but the Western donors that are cooperating with that government always come up with a statement of investigate this and investigate that. It doesn't happen. The way the political infrastructure is built in that country wouldn't make it possible for the government to hold its own officials accountable for killings like this.
Well, Ms. Lemma, I want to thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Vincent.
All right. And now Tsedale Lemma. He's the editor-in-chief and founder, in fact, of the Addis Standard Magazine.